95% of people fail this food challenge, and about halfway through, I understood exactly why. Hey Chew Crew, welcome to not just any other food challenge video. This is the biggest by weight challenge I have ever faced, and you will see the ramifications throughout the next several minutes. I was here at B&C Pizza in Bay City, Michigan, attempting their 18-inch Party Pizza Challenge. This 7-pound monster is meant to feed 6 to 7 normal humans or one human that has completely lost their mind. You can guess which category I fell into. The pizza, 8 toppings: pepperoni, sausage, ham, bacon, mushrooms, green olives, onions, and green peppers. You can substitute one of the toppings if you so choose, but I chose to eat the pizza as they made it without substitutions. There's a 1-hour time limit. Everything must be swallowed before time expires. No chipmunking. Now, certainly I wouldn't eat this entire pizza just for my health. The prizes are exceptional. To start, you get $100 in cash. However, you do have to still pay for the price of the pizza, which is $40. But as much as I love getting cold hard cash, it was their wall of fame that intrigued me more. In the 42 years that B&C has offered this challenge, there have only been 15 winners. The first name I saw on the wall of shame was from 1982. At a 95% failure rate, that equals hundreds of people that have eaten and failed miserably. They have all the pictures and Polaroids in the restaurant of the winners and the losers. They have several different boards full of the losers' pictures. They actually had to move to a second wall to show all of them, which is absolutely incredible. Of the 15 winners, you'll recognize a lot of the names. You've got Brandon the Garbage Disposal Clark, Randy Santel, Molly Schuyler. It is an A-list of winners, and there's a very good reason why it is so selective to those 15. This is a lot of pizza. This was definitely a challenge that I equivalent to the Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, and then it quickly devolved into the worst of times. Up to this point, I was on a pretty good win streak, and I was feeling very confident, we'll say, probably bordering on cockiness. And only a few minutes into the challenge, that confidence was still strong. Pizza is easily my favorite food, so I figured I'd be able to crush this challenge, waddle out with a big stack of cash, and be fat and happy. That wasn't entirely the case, as you will find out. So if you've been looking at this pizza, one thing that's very apparent is the steam that is billowing off of this pizza. When I arrived at the restaurant, they had already made the pizza and it had been on the counter for about 10 to 15 minutes. I, before even taking the first bite, let it cool another 15 minutes. And you can still see about 30 to 40 minutes after it came out of the oven, it was still smoking hot. The reason? All that insulating cheese and those 8 toppings. I took a couple bites and started burning the roof of my mouth. I said, well, I've got about 7 more pounds of this to eat, so I need to cool it down. I had to take off all the cheese, all the toppings, and you can see I scraped everything kind of toward the middle, and my strategy at that point changed from eating it like a normal pizza to trying to down as much of the toppings as possible that were actually cool enough to eat, and then work on the crust later. I figured with the carbs and the tomato sauce, it would still go down pretty easy. It would almost kind of soften up the crust a little bit by leaving the tomato sauce on it and just working on the toppings. I knew from previous challenges that all that cheese was going to be my biggest enemy. So that definitely helped. And then at that point, I was just trying to shovel as much in as possible before hitting the wall, knowing that when the pizza finally did start cooling down, that cheese is going to start congealing. And then after you've eaten several pounds of cheese and toppings, the last thing you want to do is eat more cold cheese. On the topic of cheese, that reminded me a lot of the pizza challenge I did at Giordano's. And that one was a deep dish challenge that was more so focused on speed than volume. I had an absolute blast trying to beat the record for that one because the prize was phenomenal. I'll make sure to link that video at the end of this one. But while on the topic of different pizzas, because that one was a deep dish, this one was pan, do you have a personal favorite? I really don't care what style of pizza I'm eating as long as I'm eating pizza. Although if I had to say, the Detroit pan style pizza is probably my favorite. The only pizza I haven't enjoyed eating was one time we tried making a cauliflower crust pizza at home. Failed absolutely miserably on that one. As I was approaching the 25 to 30 minute mark, I had a very disturbing and unsettling realization. I was full. I had at that point probably consumed close to 5.5 pounds of the pizza. And while I definitely thought that I had the stomach capacity, I'm not sure if it was flavor fatigue or just the sheer amount of cheese that I'd consumed, but I didn't want to put another bite of pizza in my mouth. While on the topic of my stomach not wanting what I've just ingested, this next food challenge video is one that I told myself I would never do again. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the first spicy food challenge I've done in almost 15 years. The location, a familiar one, Dog Central. This is the 4th time I have gone to Dog Central to attempt one of their delicious chili dog challenges. This time around, only 3 chili dogs. That's it. 3. The problem is they smothered them in their secret ghost pepper chili. The only thing they told me is that they put in ghost chili powder as well as ghost chili pepper extract that clocks in at over 5 million Scoville units. I'll show you a little bit now, but you're going to have to wait until the 4th of July to see if I was able to rise above the heat or if I ended up drowning in fiery ghost pepper chili. I've done some pretty wild things in my food challenge career, but this borders on reckless. These aren't just chili dogs, they're lava logs of doom, smothered in ghost pepper chili, laced with extract hotter than actual pepper spray. 5 million Scoville units. That's not heat, that's a life decision. My taste buds are already writing their will, my stomach has filed yet another complaint with HR, and I'm not even halfway through the challenge. But I came here to conquer, so buckle up, because we're going full throttle into the inferno. My eyes are starting to water, I don't want to touch them. Let's just say I remembered very quickly why I stopped doing spicy food challenges. It had been a long time since I've been in a situation with a food challenge where mentally I'm struggling. The last several challenges especially that I've posted, cruised through them, felt really good. I was not sure if this was going to happen, so I started playing some mind games where I still had some cheese left, and the last thing I wanted at that point was more cheese, which I don't think I've said that more than like 2 or 3 times in my life. So I started moving around the last 7 or 8 slices or so and trying to psych myself up and say, okay, I'm going to try to eat the ones with cheese on it first because it's only going to get harder from here, and then try to work my way down to the smallest piece left. So I had about 25 minutes or so I was trying to do the math in my head with almost bite-by-bite basis, saying, okay, I've got 5 minutes here. Okay, I've only got 4 minutes and 30 seconds to eat this next slice. So it started turning into a mind game, which is not a fun place to be. If I had to do this challenge again, I think the number one change up I would make to my strategy is to eat probably 80 to 90% of the toppings right off the bat. You can see I went after the crust and the outer edges of the pizza early on, and I probably should have just saved most of the crust for the end. That being said, there is an opportunity for me to go back. One thing I didn't mention about this challenge, you can go back once a year if you've previously won to do it again. So every year, in theory, I could go back, win $100, and eat a bunch of pizza. That being said, I don't know if I want to put myself through this. Do you think I should? If so, let me know in the comments. If I get enough people that are interested in seeing if this pizza wants a rematch with me, I may have to go back and give this challenge another shot. So at this point, I was just asking for a refill on my Diet Pepsi, which honestly, up until that point, had been the real star of the show. I started drinking some water at the beginning, but just with how heavy all the cheese was and just all that bread, the dough, the carbonation just really helped cut through some of the flavor later on. Just that fatigue of just eating more cheese, a little bit of topping, more cheese. It helped break up the flavor. The carbonation helped get out whatever little air bubbles were left in my stomach to keep me moving forward. So the wait staff was great, helped me there, and kind of rooting me on the whole way through. The final slice. It had been like 25 minutes of me just feeling like I kept chewing the same piece of pizza over and over again. And I wasn't sure if I was going to make it just because every bite felt like another slice of pizza that my stomach did not have the space for. With only 5 minutes left, I was in a dark place. You can see I had not even a mouthful of pizza left to eat. Let's see if I had it in me to put away this last little bit and earn the coveted prizes, or if I was yet another loser on their walls of shame. With 3 minutes left, I took the final bite, but I had to make sure my mouth was empty before claiming victory. It was an absolute slogfest, but I was super proud of myself for continuing to go on, even though I thought a few different times I was going to have to wave the white napkin and surrender. But I became the 16th person in over 40 years to complete this pizza party challenge. Absolutely stoked. I got my $100, I got my name up on the wall of fame, and spent the rest of the evening absolutely miserable. Has to be expected.
I regret nothing.
Speaking of regret, if you don't want to experience FOMO, make sure you click this link if you want to see me in action for a different pizza challenge. Until next time, stay hungry.